I would like to present you another game from this book, from when Kasparov was little. I honestly like very much, as you can see, the picture in the cover, because look at this face, really a killer face, and of course everybody of my age can feel nostalgic of that head full of hair that we don't have anymore. By the way, Mikhail Yudovich, the author of the book, was born in 1912 and died in 1987. He was an international master, an eminent theorist of chess, and a popular author. As a teacher of chess, he brought up many grandmasters and masters. During the last 10 years, Yudovich had, obviously, last 10 years means from the time this book was published, and this book was published in Russian and translated in English, okay? He says that they often met with Kasparov to closely follow his creative development, and of course the book tells the story of Kasparov's chess career, how it began and how it continued in the USSR. So, without further ado, let me show you a game from the young pioneer's palace in Baku. So it's possible that Kasparov was playing on this type of chess set, which is called Baku 1960. Kasparov is white, the opponent name is Vasilenko, and it was played in 1973, which means Kasparov was 10 years old. Why do we watch this game? Because you will see how Kasparov, with a space advantage, continue to press and win the game, okay? E4, E6, I mean, for a guy that he was just 10 years old, I think it was amazing, right? D4, D5, knight D2, knight C6, knight F3, knight G3, knight G8, H6. And now there is E5, at once determining the pawn configuration in the center. The 10-year-old player, of course, thought it necessary to take drastic measures without delay. Seasoned veterans usually adopt C3 at this juncture. Okay, so after E5, black played F6, clearly asking the question, what are you going to do? Yeah. Bishop B5, Bishop D7, Bishop takes C6, Bishop takes C6, and Knight D2, B3. Obviously, at this point, it doesn't want to lose a bad configuration, and black played Knight F7, which is a good idea, no? It puts also pressure on E5. And now we have Bishop C1, F4. As you can see, and this is a great thing of this Kasparov, I mean, just 10 years old, right? The guy doesn't release the pressure. He continues to keep the pressure. He's trying to finish his development. So it's really a good player, right? But doing so, black can avoid the exchange, and he plays F6, F5. And here the author writes, black has a good, solid position. He can go in for wild but promising complications by continuing with what? With G5. Okay? So that's very, very interesting. But unfortunately, it seems he let this opportunity slip, he said. But I don't know. So he thinks that he should have done this right away, I don't know, instead of F5. Okay, very interesting. Well, white played h4, which means Garry Kasparov found what was the move that was needed in this position. So imagine this guy is 10 years old and he asked himself, what is the need of this position for black? He understood that black needed to play this, okay? And so he prevented that from happening. That's amazing, in my opinion, especially for a 10-year-old, right? And especially in 1973. Because, of course, if we were speaking of a 10-year-old in 2024, that they have all this access to grandmaster teaching them games after game, theory, this and that, okay, maybe, and engines that can play like God, right? Obviously, we would say it's not such a big deal, but in 1973, that is a big deal. And many players that have played chess maybe for 20 years are not able to play a move like this, which is answering the need of this position. Okay. Here it says the right decision for the e5 pawn will now permanently stick in black's throat. Okay, that's a black throat, okay. Discarding the thought of castling short, the young player from Baku intends to bring his rook into play via the h3 square. Wow, he wants to go here. That's amazing. That's a great idea. Okay. Bishop e7. I think that Garry was very happy with his opponent's apparently natural move. The active a5 would be more opportune. No, opportune is not the right word, I think. More appropriate, right? Well, I don't know, more opportune. Queen d2, b6, c3, and bishop c6, b7. Very good, yeah. So he wants to try to attack in the center. Black seems to be somewhat afraid of his opponent and keeps playing passively for the rest of the game. Well, we know that there are bullies also in chess. Okay, bishop e3, queen d7, knight b3, c1. So notice also this, we are at move 14. As you can see, white is not in a rush to castle because his king is safe in the center. So what does he do? He improves the position of his pieces. Because this knight b3 c1 is a great move that in the book is not commented. But why do I tell you it's a great move? Because often we don't think of moves that bring the pieces back to the fourth rank, right? Bishop b7 a6. This is a kind of thematic move to prevent white from castling. I have played it in the French, but in this position, honestly, it doesn't seem right, because clearly black didn't understand that after h4, white didn't want to castle on that side. And here the proof. Rook h1, h3, right? So he proved it. But maybe he had another idea. With queen b5, he wants to give checkmate here. Very good idea, I think, right? But of course, it's kind of simple to refute with knight e2. And wow, now there is a kind of mistake by black that is a little strange. I think too that black should have played castle at this point. It's the right move. Instead he played this, queen takes e2. And of course there is the exchange of queens. He takes back with this and he takes like this. Which honestly, again I tell you, since he played f5 and he cannot open the center, or he need to open the center, That king is safe also there, honestly. Is safe also there. He played castle now, and white went for this. Knight f3, g5. Take and take, opening the file. Rook d8, f8, g3, g6, rook h3, h6, rook f4, f8, f7, very good, because you want probably to play this. Rook a1, h1. Very interesting. So did you see what he did? If you now play this, he plays this. So that's very funny, yeah, very funny. So he played probably this to parry that problem, but then you cannot play this, so I don't know, okay. Okay, let's see how it continued. King e2 f3. This is becoming a kind of king walk. King c8, d7, and g4. Wow. F takes g4, king takes g4. And now there is king e8. But as you can see, and this is an amazing game for a 10-year-old. As you can see here, white has fixed the weakness. So what this has become is an example of two weaknesses, and this is something you can see in Capablanca's game. Okay? In Capablanca's game, you always see him that he creates a weakness on one side of the board, and then he starts to work the other side. Why? Because you cannot win with only one weakness. You need to create another weakness on the other side, and then your opponent will have to divide his forces in order to keep both things, but then everything will crash. And you will see it in this game, I think. Notice, I didn't see the game up to now, but I'm able to understand what's going on. Before, you see, he's trying to create a weakness on this side that he can exploit to win the game. a6, a4, king e8, d7, b4, b5, and now a5. And here Judovich writes in the naive hope that he might shelter behind the walls. Obviously, he says that probably it was indicated to play a takes b5. A takes b, king c8, rook a1, king b7, blocking everything. So yeah, that's very interesting. In this case, yes. So think about it. Think about it for a second, because this is very, very interesting situation. Honestly, if I was black, I would have played this move too, because once I close everything, I think I have solved my problem. Instead, in this case, it was better to take, and play this maneuver with the king in order to keep everything in a drawish position. So that line could have actually drawn the game against Kasparov. Okay, so after a6, a5, black plays c4, sorry, white plays c4, amazing move, right? Because again he's trying to open the line. D takes c4, and now obviously you have created the weakness, you go on the other side, rook c1, okay? Rook h8, e8, obviously it's kind of inconsistent, probably rook c8 made a little more sense, but okay. Rook c1 takes e4, bishop e7 d8, king g4 f4, rook e8 e7, and king here. So as you can see, Kasparov is really keeping all his pieces active. As you can see, he's still exploiting the space advantage. As you can see, what is the space advantage? All the white pieces are going toward black's territory, but black doesn't have any piece in white territory. Okay, so this is terrible, really terrible for black. Rook g7, f7, but again, the problem is that most of these squares are controlled by white, so you cannot really enter there. Rook c6, fixing here, fixing everything. Rook f7, g7, so black is out of ideas. This is very bad. Why? Because maybe he's in a kind of zugzwang. So zugzwang means you need to move, but whatever move you play, you will lose. And white continue with d5, which is the decisive breakthrough, right? E takes d5, king takes d5, and now this pawn is probably kind of unstoppable. Rook e7, e8, check. And what happened? King d7, c8, bishop e3, d4. As you can see, now he activates the bishop. The game is kind of coming to an end. Rook g7, g8, and rook takes h7, and black resign. A beautiful, beautiful game. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and eventually we will discover more gems by Garry Kasparov from this little booklet that is really nice. Thank you.